I know that you previously have spoken in favor of gun control.
Of one?
Gun control. There are other left-wing theorists who seem to be against it, or at least at times have written against it. For example, Kevin Carson with the Center for a Stateless Society. A few years back, he wrote an article showing that in the past, gun control has often been used by the ruling elite who control government against the working class, for instance, with the Black Panther Party. So shouldn't we oppose the state either under its current model or even under a benevolent sort of state socialism? Shouldn't we oppose that sort of ruling elite disarming the working class?
First of all, that's utter, total illusion. Has no relation to the actual world. Now let's take the Black Panther case. I suppose you had given assault rifles to the Black Panthers. Would that have helped them? No. The state would have come in with tanks. Give them anti-tank weapons. The state will come in with B-52s. The balance of power is overwhelmingly in the force of the state. The idea that any armed resistance to the state is conceivable is kind of like having a debate about the best ice cream cones on Mars. We're not even talking about the real world. Arming the working class against the government. Suppose you armed the working class in the United States. Would they be against the government? These are just mad, crazed illusions. They have nothing to do with reality, and they have absolutely nothing to do with guns. In fact, the whole question of guns in the United States is a very intriguing one. Right now, the Second Amendment is considered holy writ. Can't interfere with the Second Amendment. That's true since 2008, when the reactionary Roberts course reversed the traditional interpretation of the Second Amendment. It's done in an interesting way. It was done by a right-wing libertarian, Scalia, supposedly an originalist. And it's very interesting to read his decision. From an originalist conservative point of view, it's outrageous. It's very scholarly, good scholar, all sorts of obscure references to the 17th century and so on. But any originalist would ask the question, why did the founders want people to have guns? That's the first question you would ask. And we know the answer. In fact, there are three answers. One is, as stated in the amendment, because they needed militias. There wasn't much of a standing army. And the British were a serious threat at the time. And destroying Indian tribes was a major project, so you needed militias. That's one reason. A second major reason was controlling slaves. And the slave masters had to have guns. And the third reason was basically killing Indians. The U.S. is an interesting country. People talk about Afghanistan being the longest war. It's not. The U.S. has been at war since its founding. Never, almost hardly a year without war. The first wars were attacking and destroying the Indian nations, which populated the country. And those were wars of aggression against nations which were destroyed. Well, people needed guns. That's the way you do it. Do any of these three reasons apply to today? Are the British coming? Do we have a standing army? Do we have to control slaves? Do we have to kill the remaining Indians? None. So the Second Amendment is simply inapplicable.
Just from a philosophical point of view, though, when you look at the relationship between the individual and the state, shouldn't the focus be on maintaining an individual's ability to defend him or herself? And maybe instead of gun control legislation, shouldn't the impetus of public concern be against the state and disarming the state?
Well, this is an interesting idea. There's several ways of looking at the state. One way of looking at it is it's a powerful force attacking us. The other way of looking at it is it's an instrument that is of, by, and for the people. Those are two different pictures of the state. Well, which one do we want? If you feel that the state is a powerful enemy, then you have to have a way to fight against it, but not with guns. If you feel that the government can be an instrument that is under popular control and works for the public good, then you act in ways to try to bring that about. And incidentally, notice that all these discussions from a right-wing libertarian point of view ignore the main source of concentrated power in the country, namely unaccountable private power, which that's the real threat. But the right-wing libertarians don't want you to look at that because they want to defend concentrated private power, which, if you take a look at it, is kind of the epitome of a tyrannical organization. Orders come from the top, go down, you take them, at the very bottom you're allowed to rent yourself what's laughably called consent. That has to be protected from discussion. And then you set up the state as kind of an enemy in the hope that people will not try to turn the state into an instrument which they control for their own benefit.
But correct me if I'm wrong, you have said that the state relies upon violence and is a violent institution, right?
I'd like to see a society in which state power is evolved into popular control. But we're talking about this world, and in this world, a government which is at least partially under public control is a defense against unaccountable private power.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time. I sincerely do appreciate it.